When was Ernie Reyes was here last year, right? Ernie Reyes Jr. The year before that. No, it was last year. So Ernie Reyes Jr. was here of the right after the pandemic. So 2020, yeah. So he was here, and that's when I started. That was like I was like super nervous for that one because I'm a '80s baby, and Ninja Turtles is like, you know what I'm saying? And getting a chance to sit next to Kino, and then Surf Ninjas. Okay, if you ain't never seen Surf Ninjas, you need to watch it, right? But getting a chance to sit with him.
Yeah, last year they were this big.
Yeah. Getting a chance to sit with him was like, and then my second time being nervous at doing this was yesterday for the Naruto panel. That was, whew, man. Like getting a chance to see, your like I grew up with them. Like I started watching Naruto when I was.
We couldn't tell you were nervous.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
So I started watching Naruto when I was 17, and I was like I graduated high school in 2003. So 2002 was watching that, and then going. And I remember where I was. It was a Wednesday because Naruto's manga used to come out every Wednesday, and I remember because that was my session, my restroom session, and getting a chance to read that on a Wednesday morning before I get ready to go to work. I remember that very vaguely, very fondly of seeing the last manga of the last episode. So yeah, it was just the fact that you can, and then you get a chance to see him and talk to him and have conversation. Now I really did like what's the name who actually played Rock Lee. Like if you got a chance to meet him, he's really in his personality, his vibe, his aura embodies Rock Lee. Like it was really cool getting a chance to talk. All right. Rambling on. Oh, anyways, but yes, to answer your question.
Is your day job for media and stuff too, or is it?
My day job, I'm a sales guy.
Oh, okay.
So yes, you could actually say I do media. Yes, because I talk to people every day. I have conversation, and so I just, I'm really good at using words, and I like to talk to people. I like the energy of being around people. Then on top of that, I've been doing panels. Man, my first convention was Pensacon, and that was in 2016. Pensacon, Pensacola. Yeah, so 2016 is when we first did our panel, and we were really boring. I had a whole PowerPoint presentation and trying to be the person doing all the talking back here. Yeah, it was really boring. So we figured out that interaction with the fans is really good. So when we have conversations of different things that we actually go into the crowd, stuff like that. So like just early today, we had this first time ever I combined Marvel versus DC and trivia. And so how we do trivia is about you guys. You guys give out the categories, and we find the person that is best at that category to take 1 minute to ask you guys whatever questions based on easy ones. So we do that. We do a Marvel panel. We do a DC panel. I now have there's a new one that I actually really like, and if anybody has suggestions, great. But it's called Name That Song Out of a Movie, right? So it's like you get because back again, there's movies are different compared to how they were back in the day. Okay, movies you have an iconic song that reminds you of that movie, right? Like seeing J5. Anybody remember J5 off of Circuit? No, nobody know I'm talking. Johnny 5 off of Circuit, right? When he's riding down that road and you hear the music playing, and then we hear that music playing inside like a story, it reminds you of that movie, right? It's just like one of those kind of like type things. So so we have that one. Yeah, it is. So we just play the music and you get a chance to name it. Yeah, we tried that first time at Tupelo. And then defend that bad movie. When it comes to live action anime or action movies, we do that too. So that's kind of some of the ones we've actually put in our kind of circle list of things, stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's fun.
Please put your hands together for Mr. Ryan Hurst.
What does it mean? really cool.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. So really appreciate it.
You got it, man.
And this, well, I guess if nobody knows, is yourself and tell what you're most known for.
I have no idea what you know me for. I was just wandering around outside and they called my name and came in.
So, tell us, how did you, what was, out of, some of the projects you've done, what's been the best for you?
Oh, it's always the next one. I always look forward. Always look forward. It's all for me.
Yes.
If I ate all of these things. Yeah, it's always the next one. I'm an artist. I just kind of like creating things and never kind of look back.
By the way, I just want to say thank you for Gary and how you played that role.
Yeah, man.
That was football teams back when I played. We're all going to see that movie, and how you actually handle that, and how the transformation of character represents a very positive thing that I think everybody should really kind of hone into.
Yeah.
And, being able to be open-minded, to be able to adjust to different things, different situations that make things better. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's what the movie is all about. One of my favorite parts about that movie was that Wood Harris and I, you see where Gary kind of has, kind of comes to Jesus moment with Wood's character, is we sort of rewrote that scene because it was really important to me. And originally, the way that the scene was written was just kind of like them kind of coming together and consoling him because he's not paralyzed or whatever. But I didn't think that was what the scene was necessarily about. What I thought was really important and that we wrote into the script was that all of Gary's prejudice, like all prejudice, is all just based on ignorance. It's just on lack of exposure. It's just based on fear.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really important to me to put in there that Gary was intimately sharing with his brother that he was afraid. And that was the only thing that was veiled between him and the other person. And inevitably that's, when anybody has a prejudice, that's all that it is. It's just a fear. And that fear is always based on the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're just kind of like biologically always programmed to, if we don't know something, or if we're not exposed to something, we're afraid. It's just kind of that's the way that we as human beings have survived on this planet. We don't know what that is, we're scared.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're gonna assign those values to random things.
Right.
So that was one of the things that was really important to me that kind of infused the script and it's really kind of identified that he was just scared.
And I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
So what was your best moment in that movie particularly? I don't know. Is Wood and I, it was one of those things, I met him in like 30 seconds. And I was like, I've known this dude my entire life and we've just met. Him and I are still wonderfully close friends. He's one of the smartest cats I've ever met. He's a musician, he's a poet. He's just, I would have to say that my favorite part was just meeting Wood. Yeah. That's awesome. I have to ask, did Denzel give one of his speeches?
Oh,
Like to know you guys?
He did, but I'll tell you, if you haven't, he's kind of been much more outspoken, in the 20 years since we made that. But when I was on the set, him and I had I'm a pretty well-read dude, and we had these deep conversations about Zen Buddhism and stuff, and I was just like, yo, this dude is one of the wisest men that I've ever, I was like, he's a very, very, very smart man. So him and I got to talking about quite a few things. He was pulling out references that I was like, how do you know this stuff? I thought I was weird for knowing this stuff. And but he's one of those, like, he should have been a professor and just happened to end up being an actor. So yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
some down.
Yeah.
So what was your experience with that?
My manager called me and they said, and she said, "You want to get paid to ride a motorcycle?" And I said, "Yes." That was it. She was like, "I know." And she was like, "You want to read the script?" I was like, "No." The answer is yes. Like when I first started my career, I would do that a lot. I was like, "It shoots where? In Hawaii? Okay, I'll do it." Yeah. So that was literally one of the reasons. Is like, it's a show about bikers. They're going to pay me to ride a motorcycle. I don't care how bad it is. Let's go. It just happened to be great. Yeah.
So, how's your experience in Huntsville? This is your first time in Huntsville, right?
Second or third time.
Second, third time.
Yeah.
How's your
Love it. Love it here. People are amazing. People are amazing. No, I did not. I was exhausted. My flight getting here was one of the worst flights that I've ever had. I got stuck in Dallas during that storm that came in. They put us on a plane, waiting there for an hour. Then they had to get off the plane, go to a different gate, wait there. That plane, go to another gate, got on that plane, waited for 2 hours, and then they said, "Your flight is canceled, please don't kill us." I was like, what? Yeah, it was bad.
That's hard.
Yeah. And I was like, "Are you guys gonna like put us up in a hotel?" And they're like, "No, that's up to you." I was like, "You gotta make me find a hotel." And then all the hotels were sold out. So I'm here, but I'm bruised, but I'm here.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So, are you working on anything right now that you talk about?
There's a couple of little things coming down the pipe. Can't talk much about them. I mean, there's a few little movies. I did a movie with Mel Gibson called and Garrett. Who was messing his last name? Devin Hunt, called Desperation Road that comes out next year. And then there's two other features that I got coming out.
What has been like? Who have you worked with that you just like idolize? Like it was just like, oh my god, like I get a chance to be in the same room as this person.
Very early in my career, there's really only one, which was Robin Williams. Robin Williams was an idol of mine when I was a little kid, because I wanted to be a stand-up before I wanted to be an actor. And I remember one of the first, like back in the day, hating myself here, but you would, when you would buy, essentially, back in the early 80s or late 70s, early 80s, you could only rent VHS tapes. If you wanted to buy one, they were like $300.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you're back up here.
Yeah.
VHS went from $300 to $20,
Yeah.
$24.
Correct.
Because in the 90s, you could buy VHS.
Right. I'm not talking about the 90s.
Over 10 years with $300.
Yeah. Like the studio system basically, when video shops opened up, is the studios would charge for those VHS. They saw them like films, so that to buy them to be in somebody's home, they really didn't want that to happen. So they priced it really, really high. It wasn't until the whole system changed. But yeah, back in the day, they were like $300 to buy a movie if you wanted to own it. And I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I saved up. No, I'm sorry, I was 8 or 9 years old, and I saved up, and I bought. I saved up for Christmas, my birthday, and I did all my chores and all that stuff. And I bought Robin Williams at the Metropolitan Opera House, and I would watch it over and over and over and over and over again. And then when I was maybe 20, 19, 20, I did a movie called Patch Adams where I had this little tiny role, and I got to work with Robin Williams, and I walked up to him and I said, "Mr. Williams, I just want to let you know," I said, little 8 or 9 year old Ryan was not out playing with his friends or on his dirt, on his BMX bike. He was sitting there watching you at the Metropolitan Opera House and memorizing every syllable that you learned. He grabbed my hand and he put it to his chest and he goes, "That'll get me through today. Thank you for that. That'll get me through." So it was one of those like, that's sort of like the crown jewel of my acting career.
So you still want to be a stand-up?
No, too hard, man.
Because I was going to ask you, it was good.
No, too hard.
So with that being said, we're going to get to the next question.
Go for it.
So all you do is actually sit right there by the mic and ask away. We got about 10 minutes for you.
I guess I'm it.
Yep.
So, we're about the same age. I love the Postman. I know that's an obscure reference, but one of my faves. So it's kind of a two-parter, but we're going to go off tangents. So first was, since you discussed Robin Williams and Denzel Washington, I'd like to hear a little bit about how it was with Kevin Costner. And then you're a very versatile actor. You've done apocalyptic movies, war movies, you've done voiceovers of video games. So my question is are you keeping the beard or does it got to go away at some point?
So your beard is the question.
The beard is the question. Unless it's a once in a lifetime sort of role, I choose to keep my hair not cut. And Kevin Costner, that movie didn't do too well in the box office, but I'll tell you, it was a $200 million movie that he was directing and starring in. So that's an enormous feat, to have a giant sort of epic type movie. So any stress that he was under, I give him full props.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Give me a hand clap.
My question is, since you did the voice and soul, I want to ask you, what was it like working with Christopher Judge?
He's a great dude. I'll tell you, is one of those guys, like when you're making any project that you're working on, is anytime that you're working with somebody who shows up, who is excited and makes you excited about working on the thing that you're working on together. Those are golden people, and he's one of them. He's one of them. He is an absolute great collaborator. We worked with each other on that thing for about a year, and he was just always totally gung ho, totally collaborative. I had a blast. Thank you.
Give me a hand clap.
We talked about you being Florida Valley War, which is now by far away my favorite video game franchise of all time. Thank you for that. I wanted to say the performance of giving for an opportunity to grow and be redeemed in video games very impressive. What I wanted to ask was, doing that sort of mocap and doing those voices, did it feel like you were acting, or did it feel like you had to do something kind of different, or did it feel like you were just acting?
Yeah, the hardest part was just that Thor, it's difficult to describe. It was much more like operating a marionette than it was acting. The only reason was because Thor was supposed to be so much bigger than the other characters. So even though I was opposite Chris or somebody else in the scene, that they have you're in this mocap suit with all these ping pong balls on you, and you're in this spandex, and have this tusk camera in front of you that gets all of your facial movements. But while you're doing that, you're trying to play the scene. They have television that are lining the ceiling, where you can see these sort of low-res versions of yourself in the atmosphere. So I was so much bigger there, like taller, than I was compared to this person. So you have to kind of like do the scene and look all at the same time. And they would be like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Like you can kind of adjust your head at the end." Okay. But yeah, so that was the learning curve for me. Was it felt much more like operating Pinocchio than it was, just kind of like being an actor. There you go.
Hello, I'm Audrey.
I remember.
I'm a big fan of Southern of Anarchy,
Yeah.
So, were you shocked when they killed Opie, and how did you feel shooting that scene?
I was not shocked. Kurt told me beforehand, before that season started, he said we're going to kill Opie, and I was like, oh, okay. We talked about it. We talked about how it was going to happen, and then inevitably he goes, look, we're going to kill him, but it's going to be fantastic. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, it's going to be regal, it's going to be operatic, and it's going to be a natural end of the character. And I was like, okay. I mean, obviously, I didn't want to see him go just like most of the audience did. But I felt like when we were shooting it, it was beautiful. I mean, I've told this story a lot of times, but is the entire cast and crew for the sort of like last shot that you see of Opie, right before he gets his head cracked in, is entire cast and crew lined up behind the camera. Like Katie, Ron, everybody. So even though, in the scene it was just supposed to be Charlie and Tommy, everybody was there. And everybody was locking eyes with me. So it was this wonderful, all these people that I sort of become very, very intimate with and very, very, have these close relationships with, was kind of like there to say their goodbyes. So there was no real sort of acting requirement. It was a very profound, and it was kind of like a Viking funeral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
I'm thinking of actually talking to you right now. So like she just said, I'm a huge fan of Southern Man. You played one of the best characters I've ever seen in a TV show.
Oh, thank you.
You were amazing.
Thank you very much.
What was it like? I know it's a legendary relationship. What was it like working with Charlie Hunnam, and what was his work ethic? Like, did y'all get on some time?
Charlie's one of those cats. He reminded, again, like very fast, super quick friendship. Like when we first met, he reminds me. He looks almost identical to one of my younger brothers. So we just kind of like struck that relationship real quick. Charlie's work ethic is ridiculous. I mean, I'm a little older than he is, but he's one of those cats that, like, if a character was supposed to like not have slept for 6 weeks, he won't sleep for 6 weeks. I will be asleep in my trailer 5 minutes before the scene shoots. He's just one of those cats that really like overcommits a lot of time. I'm just like, dude, you are killing yourself. I was like, but so he always sort of set the tone for everybody of bring your best game. So I can't fault him for that. But I do say that he overdoes it. I was just like, bro, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. It always reminds me of there's a famous story with Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman. They were making the Marathon Man, where Laurence Olivier plays this old Nazi who ends up torturing Dustin Hoffman. And near the end of the movie, Dustin Hoffman is supposed to have not slept for like 72 hours. He's running. So Dustin Hoffman doesn't sleep for 72 hours. And Laurence Olivier is waiting on the set. He's like, what's going on? And the director says, we're waiting on Dustin. He's running around the entire studio. And he'd been running since 6 a.m., just running. And so Dustin finally runs into the building and comes over and says, and they were like, all right, so they get the cameras ready and stuff. And Laurence Olivier is sitting there drinking his tea and smoking a cigarette and says, Dustin, darling, come here. You can act tired. So Charlie's a little bit like Dustin Hoffman.
Always been so much, man. I'll give you a great hand.
Yeah. Hi.
So I know you've done a lot of great work, but one of your more recent works really touched my heart. I was a huge reader growing up.
Yeah.
And seeing the series Benedict Society actually get made
Yeah.
as a TV show was amazing to me because I read all the books, I was obsessed with the story.
Sure.
So, A, were you familiar with all of the books coming into the role, and B, what was it like working on that?
I loved working on that show. I never read any of the books. It was actually my mother came across the script before I did. She's in the business also, and she called me and she said, "This is your next project." And I was like, "What?" She said, and she's like, and she's like, "You have to do this." And I was like, "I don't even know if they want me to do it." And she's like, "Trust me, this is your next project." And I was like, "Okay." So I got the script and I read it and I fell in love with it. It was so beautiful. The way that it just sort of honored the interior emotional life of children was fantastic. And so I went in for the audition and did the audition, and then they offered me the role. And I was sitting down with the creators, and they said, and I was asking them about the tone of what they were trying to create. And they were like, "Well, just imagine Willy Wonka as directed by Wes Anderson." I was just like, "Let's do it." I was like, "You had me at Wes Anderson." So it was. I'm upset that they didn't let it kind of go, let it breathe a little bit more. But I had a blast doing it, and Emmy, the girl who played Kate, her and I, we had an absolute blast together.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Give a hand clap. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's a wrap. Please give me a big hand clap. Make sure you everything you can today, and make sure that you exit to your right.
Bye, guys.
Go get your camera.
Oh yeah, take my camera.